Welcome back to PSC Tech Bytes. This week, I want to talk with you about how you can consume the Microsoft Graph from within a SharePoint Framework client-side web part hosted in Microsoft Teams. In fact, since SharePoint Framework 1.8, you can create a SharePoint Framework web part that you can host in Microsoft Teams as a custom Teams tab. And in such kind of web part, you can also leverage the MS Graph client object that you have in SharePoint Framework since version 1.6 in order to consume the Microsoft Graph and to make a request to access any of the other services that you have in the Office 365 ecosystem. So let's move to the demo environment and let's see how to do that in practice. So, for the sake of simplicity, let's assume that we want to create a custom Teams tabs with SharePoint Framework in order to create a meeting in the calendar of our Teams calendar. So this could be my custom meeting, so a custom meeting which I can create on a specific date, which can be tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's okay, until 4 p.m. and that's it, until tomorrow, of course. And I can just create my meeting. And by creating the meeting, under the cover, the Microsoft Graph will create a new event in the calendar of my team. So how can we do that with an SPFX web part enabled to run in Microsoft Teams? Let me switch to Visual Studio Code. This is my client-side web part, and using the capabilities provided by SharePoint Framework since version 1.6, I define a variable of type MSGraphClient, which I simply initialize in the onInit method of my client-side web part. And there I use the MSGraphClient factory of the context object of SPFX to get a reference to the MSGraphClient instance. And then I simply provide that object to the React component under the cover of my SPFX client-side web part. So that in the client-side web part, when I want to create a meeting, I simply say, okay, if I have the Graph client object instance, I simply get a set of information about the currently connected user because I need those information to configure the meeting request. Then I create a new event, which will be a calendar event based on the Graph definition of a calendar event, but I don't really care about the structure and the object that we are going to create. I do care about how you can use the Microsoft Graph from SPFX within Teams. So I just create an event based on all of the properties that we need to create an event, and using the Graph client object that we have in SPFX, we simply make an API request for the target API, which in my scenario is the API for groups, for the specific group ID, which I can read from the Teams context that I have in SPFX. I target the events in the default calendar of my team, and I make a post providing my event object so that the event will be created. And I get back the response and I simply show the result. But the key point here is that you use the MSGraphClient object that you have in SPFX, as well as you have it in Microsoft Teams when you create a Teams-enabled client-side web part. You can get through the team context a reference to the group ID or to the team ID that you want to target. And as usual, whenever you consume the Microsoft Graph from SharePoint Framework, you have to declare in the package solution.json file what are the permissions that you want to have for your solution in order to access the Microsoft Graph. And here I want to access the Microsoft Graph to read and write the group, all the groups, and to read the user because I want to get the information about the currently connected user. Then you simply bundle and package your solution. You deploy the SPPKG file that you created onto the app catalog of your tenant. So by doing that, you simply upload the package onto your target app catalog, and you will be able, as an admin, to go to the admin center of SharePoint Online, so your tenant-admin.sharepoint.com, and from the modern admin UI of the SharePoint Online service in the API management page, you will be able to find and approve the pending approval permissions for your application under this section. You select the pending permissions, you approve or reject them. Of course, you have to approve them if you want to run your application, and then you are ready to go. You're ready to call the Microsoft Graph from within the Teams tab, which is actually running a SharePoint Framework client-side web part. which is really powerful. As usual, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.